Welcome back. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of the Spokane area, welcome to the second half of our 2022 Candidate Forum, featuring candidates for Legislative District 4, positions 1 and 2. As a reminder, I will be asking the candidates questions that have been formulated by the League's Voter Services Committee. I will ask as many questions as time allows. The candidates will each have 30 seconds to introduce themselves and to tell the voters why they are running. They will have up to 1 minute to answer each question, and the candidates will have 30 seconds for a closing statement. The candidates will alternate in answering the questions. Please note that we do have a timer who will be giving you the heads up, stop, 30 seconds, the important things. Now to meet our candidates tonight. They are Mr. Robert Chase and Mr. Leonard Christian for Legislative District 4, position 2. Starting alphabetically with Mr. Chase, they will each have 30 seconds to tell us why they are running. Mr. Chase.
Yes, I'm running because I am the incumbent, and I think I've done a good job as the incumbent in my first sessions, and I was county treasurer for 8 years. I took a term pledge, 2-term pledge that I honored, and then now I consider myself as a good county treasurer, and I believe I am a good representative for the 4th district.
Thank you. Mr. Christian.
Good evening. I'm Leonard Christian, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on, as they have in several years. And my answer is fairly easy. I was there in 2014. I enjoyed what I was doing, and I was able to accomplish more in roughly 2 months than my opponent has in over 2 years. Been able to get a bill passed, signed by into law, where it's out there helping people today. I was on 5 committees in the legislature. And I'm looking forward to going back there again and continuing on that hard work.
Thank you, Mr. Christian. As Mr. Chase introduced himself first, our first question will be from Mr. Christian, and he will have up to 1 minute to answer. I will state the questions. If either of you gentlemen need it repeated, please do ask. I will be alternating respondents. Our first question, this one's a softball. What training, experience, and skills do you have that have prepared you for this position? We will start with Mr. Christian.
With training and skills, I wish I had more than a minute on this one, but I joined the Air Force roughly 2 weeks after I graduated high school, where I learned how to fix airplane engines, of course, in my earlier days when I would become a recruiter, where I became number 10 in the nation doing recruiting for the Air Force, and did so well at that. I ended up coming back and running an engine shop, and then did so well at that, I got promoted and ended up being on the command staff at that point. Retired out of the Air Force after 21 years, returned here to Spokane, my hometown, and started in real estate. Became extremely successful in real estate, finished out my bachelor's degree early on after getting out of the Air Force, and went on to get a master's degree in business. I was appointed to the legislature in 2014, where I had 5 committees, including the capital budget and the general budget, and was able to work across the aisle and get things done while I was there. So my record is extensive, and I will be able to go back there and start working hard right away. I'm already getting calls from folks there.
Thank you, Mr. Christian. Mr. Chase.
Yeah, I have a general background. I've done a lot of different things in my life, and I'm a generalist by nature. I come from the Silver Valley in Kellogg, and my background was mining and smelting. Then I moved here during Expo 74, and I've been here ever since. But I've also worked in manufacturing at Hewlett Packard, Hawken Industries, out in Cheney. Worked at Seattle First Bank too, and that helped me to get through college. I got a degree in operations management, and that's helped me a lot, especially in the treasurer's office. That helped me a lot. So I've also been in insurance and real estate. I do have the endorsement of the Spokane Realtors Association, and I really love this job because it is so general. I could be on every committee. I'd love to be on every committee there because it's so interesting with all the expert witnesses.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Her second question tonight. Voting districts were recently redrawn in a controversial process. As one of the legislators writing the rules, are there changes you would propose for the redistricting process? We'll begin with Mr. Chase.
Yeah, I think according to redistricting, we had to give up about 5,000 people in the 4th district. But that changed our boundaries. And it's a good thing because I lived by the lake in Liberty Lake for 30 years. If I hadn't moved 3 years ago, I would have been redistricted into the 9th district. I was hoping we would go further away from the city of Spokane Valley, maybe to Fireman or in that area, and give up those 5,000 people there. But instead, we gave southern portion to the 9th district. And but now we go clear up to the Ponderay County line too, so we include all of Mount Spokane new district. So like talking to Senator Pat, who's been around for a long time, he thought it really didn't change that much. It's still a conservative district.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. We will move now to Mr. Christian.
Just a minute.
Oh. Got ahead of my timer.
Yeah, that's bad. Go ahead, Leonard.
Thank you. So as I understand the question, what will we do as legislators to help? I think the redistricting process is very partisan, it's very political. And of course, every group is trying to get an advantage by drawing the lines. I think we need to start as legislators getting more involved in that, trying to take the politics out of it a little bit more, to be honest with you. I don't think you should be drawing lines just to be able to, the county commissioners is a perfect example of that. Adding 5 of those and drawing, and so now the county, only 20% of the county is going to be constituents for each commissioner, instead of before each commissioner had the entire county as their constituents, and that was just strictly politics. I'd like to see us be able to start focusing on what's good for the citizens and not necessarily so what's good for one party over the other.
Thank you very much, Mr. Christian. Our third question this evening relates to revenue. About 2 weeks ago, the most recent revenue projection for 2023 through 25 is about $500 million lower than had been expected. How will you decide which programs need funding, and will you support or oppose new revenue streams? We will begin with Mr. Christian.
Thank you for the question. I think we're going to be shorter than that, as we're starting to find out that the labor unions for the state workers is coming to light, a 7% pay raise and $1,000 bonus for the vaccine and a $1,000 bonus for staying employed. So I'm not sure that those are actually factored in as well in this budget shortfall as we're going to see. The problem with our state is we haven't been putting money aside in the rainy day fund, and we've been sweeping other accounts all along. It's about time that we start looking to see what programs are actually providing benefits to the citizens and which ones are actually just wasting money out there. I'm not for raising more taxes. I don't think anyone in Spokane Valley or our district is interested in raising our taxes at this point. I think we need to start making the government a lot more efficient, finding out the programs that work first before we explore those options.
Thank you very much, Mr. Christian. We will now move to Mr. Chase.
Okay. The 2020 census showed that the state of Washington grew by 13%. And yet in 10 years, we've doubled the operating budget. And it just doesn't add up. And also we had 15 billion more than we expected to get in. So, it's easy to give people something, but it's hard to take it away back again if we fall on leaner times, and that's happened before. And we've seen that, like, in my lifetime, the Federal Reserve plays with interest rates and money supplies, and it causes sort of a roller coaster of things. So external things actually affect the 4th district. And then as far as you have to listen to your constituents, what do they think are the priorities, and then use your own discernment. Because when you get into committee, everybody wants to be funded. So what is actually helping the helpless and adding value in your spending?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chase. Our fourth question tonight. Transportation greenhouse gases are the #1 source of emissions in Washington state. Do you support or oppose the requirement for electrification of all new car sales and light trucks by 2030? Why or why not? We will begin with Mr. Chase.
I oppose electrification of cars because it's turning out the batteries are actually more of a hazard than nuclear waste in some cases. Also, you have to burn oil and natural gas to make the juice to plug the cars into. So I don't see how that gained anything. And also, I think there's the numbers on the concern for CO2 just don't add up. It's so diminutive, the amount of CO2, which is about 410 parts per million in the atmosphere. And of that, 3% is man-made. So if the atmosphere is like 100 miles thick, it's only lasts 68 feet, that's man-made CO2. And, you know, we've got bigger fish to fry, I think, environmentally than wasting our money on greenhouse gas emissions, because it's so small and actually methane is even less. If you take the state of Washington, the square miles of it, it's like 7/10,000ths of 1% of the planet. How can we do much in Washington State as far as greenhouse gases?
Thank you very much. We will move now to Mr. Christian.
Yeah, I personally would love to see us all do electrification, but the reality is it's not there. My understanding is I'd love to see the Facebook post of the generator that's ran by diesel pulled up next to the car, charging it up, or the diesel generator, or down in California where they don't have the grid. So what they do, they put a big generator behind a fence and charge the cars with diesel at that point. So until we get the technology and the infrastructure, I mean, I know our Vista literally put billions of dollars into our natural gas system, and now they want to take that out. The reality is we don't have enough electricity in all of our homes right now to, if everyone switched over to electric car, we could not support that. And then we have clean energy right now with dams, but they're wanting to take those out. In Vista the other day, I was talking to them, only 3% of dams across the nation produce electricity. So if we can start producing electricity where that is clean, I would fully support electrification. But until we produce the electricity to charge those cars cleanly.
Thank you, Mr. Christian. All right, moving to a very different topic. Our fifth question tonight. What strategies would you support to enhance civics education in grades K through 12? We will begin with Mr. Christian.
Well, thank you again for the question. Civics, we need to get back to it. We need to get back to the basics of reading, writing, arithmetic in our schools, and we need to start supporting our teachers with the help they need to do that. And also civics is that as well. What we need to get away from is a lot of the social stuff that's going on in our schools. Those are not helping our children achieve. I was talking to a recruiter the other day for the military. He said COVID has taken 9 points off of the ASVAB test, which is the test that you take to join this military service. And he was telling me how today, less than 27% of the kids who graduate high school qualified to join the Army. How is that? That our school system, as much money as we're pouring into our school system, and those young folks are not able to qualify either for medical issues or school issues to join the service. We've got to get back to focusing on what's the basics in our education and support our teachers to do these basics.
Question, Mr. Chase.
Yeah, we do need to get back to the 4 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic, which also includes recess. I think you learn a lot on the playground, you know, in Playground 101. And I think, you know, that being able to play with each other and develop their own games and everything was very important. You know, I always look forward to recess. When I was a kid, that was my favorite subject, you know, when I was a kid. So I think we need to get back to the basics. And we also need to get back to an understanding of the United States and Washington state constitutions too in civics. So very few kids seem to, unless they're homeschooled, seem to really get that, or there's a big misunderstanding. And also depends on who's teaching it too and their political agendas. We also need a transparent curriculum for parents on what they're actually being teaching to the kids and have more parent involvement in our public schools K through 12 too. I also had a bill that would have given an unrestricted voucher to parents, homeschoolers, and private school kids.
Thank you very much. Sixth question tonight. What is your position on the adequacy of current and proposed processes for protecting election integrity. We'll begin with Mr. Chase.
I just finished a book called Black Box Voting. It was written in 2003 by Democrat Bev Harris, and it was a classic. And she was upset over the loss of Al Gore to George Bush Jr. And she researched it and found out both parties took advantage of the die vote machines. And actually, any computer can be hacked. So that is a big concern here in the 4th District. I get asked about that all the time. Why isn't there more transparency in the auditor's office? You know? And well, why aren't the cameras hooked up? You know, in the treasurer's office, we had the cameras hooked up, and that was a good control on everybody. It wasn't any privacy issues that we were worried about. You know, and they say, oh, the election is the most secure one we've ever had. Well, then how can the auditor's office, you know, miss a $1.4 million embezzlement that had been going on for years? So you have to trust but verify. And I think maybe as closer as we get to the old things, systems that used to work would be better.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. We will now move to Mr. Christian.
That was actually one of the committees I was on in 2014, involved elections and such as well. And I actually put together a bill about putting web cameras in. I believe Ronald Reagan had it right, trust but verify. And he was a great president. And one of my first bills this year will be that every 2 years that each party, Democrat, Republican, propose one race and one precinct. And then we flip a coin and do one of their races at one of their precincts. And then that race and that precinct is audited with the hand ballots, the ones that came in. And I tell you, if you know you're totally random at a lottery system type thing, gonna have one of those races audited, and it comes out and it matches what the results are, then I think that's going to do a lot for America to start trusting our election systems again. And it's not going to cost us very much as a taxpayer. I think there'll be about 1,400 ballots at the most to count for one race and one precinct that's randomly chosen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Christian. 7th question this evening. What policies do you support or oppose to assure quality and quantity of the water supply here in Eastern Washington? This time we will begin with Mr. Christian.
Answer the question. We have some of the cleanest water in the nation. And in fact, they had to develop a new test just to be able to test for how clean our waters are. I know we ended up getting rid of phosphates. I mean, dishes still have issues getting clean, to be honest with you. We run this thing twice. But you know what, it's worth it to be putting in, have clean water here in our community, to be honest with you. So I'm happy to work with either side of the aisle to make sure we have clean water, but I'm also a realistic person. I don't think you put somebody out of business to get to a climate change agenda by any means. We have to care about our community and our businesses as well as our environment. It's a two-way street, to be honest with you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Christian. Mr. Chase.
Well, the Spokane River flowing through the 4th District is a huge treasure, I think, and we're very blessed to have that. Water supply is very important, yet I was watching a documentary on the Jordan River in Israel. It feeds millions of people, the Jordan River. And the Spokane River is actually bigger, and you got the aquifer underneath it. So, I mean, we shouldn't take any chances. We have to keep our aquifer clean, and part of that is I'm also help Spokane River keepers clean up trash every probably several times over the summer. And the valley is not too bad, but downtown it is really awful. We get tons of stuff from people that have camped along the river to throw away. And then plastics are another big thing that fish eat the plastics. And in fact, environmentally, I think we should get the freighters or the aircraft carriers of forever to declare war on plastic in the ocean and start recycling that on aircraft carriers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chase. 8th question this evening. What do you believe is needed to support and enhance Washington's agricultural productivity? We will begin this time with Mr. Chase.
Well, I've been on several farm tours, and Tri-Cities and not too much around Spokane here, although there are parts of Spokane County like Green Bluff in our own district that are still agricultural. But we need to listen to the farmers, and it's tough to be a farmer nowadays. The big concerns have kind of taken over the smaller farmer and pushed them out. So that's another thing we're blessed for is, the west side, has Amazon and Microsoft and all these Boeing and all these bigger companies, but we've got so many products we produce. We're number one in a lot of agricultural products. I toured a Lamb Weston plant today, which is the biggest facility in the world. And it's 11 floors and like 55 million square feet over there by Tri-Cities. But we've got to make sure that those have the ability to get to market to feed people. We feed a large portion of the world too. So it's a big success story of agriculture in Washington State.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chase. Mr. Christian.
And we are blessed here in Washington State to have our agricultural farms where we do. We're a leading producer in our state for the world for wheat and apples, and the list goes on. But I think there's a tax on our dams, which help provide the irrigation to our farmers. And so farmers are, watching what's going on in the irrigation world for them, because that will stop them from being able to grow if we lose our dams for whatever reason. I also understand that there's a lot of issues going on around the world that we are actually spending taxpayer dollars to go out and make sure that our apples can go to another country, that other country may require certain boxing or certain labeling or certain testing. And so we're actually out there doing that to help those farmers, and we need to continue those programs to make sure our farmers are successful, be able to send our products not just in the United States, but all over the world, especially with this war in Ukraine, how they're going backwards. We need to be able to step up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Christian. Our ninth question this evening: what are your greatest concerns about the criminal justice system in Washington, and how would you address them? We will begin with Mr. Christian.
I think our greatest concerns here is the citizens living in the 4th district. Our system is good, but we have grown and expanded in population, but we haven't expanded with a new jail. And so the fact that we have folks committing crimes and not being held accountable for those crimes because we simply do not have the space to do that needs to change. We need to refocus. Our commissioners need to get together and put on the ballot a new jail for the upcoming election. I think that we need to start focusing on the victims and not the criminals, and not worrying about how the criminals are not enjoying their time in incarceration. It's the victims we need to start caring about here in the 4th. My neighbor just had his window smashed out of his car the other night. It was just totally senseless violence. And what's happening? Zero. He just has to buy a new window. They have not even come out to investigate the crime. And they did that down the whole street, actually. So we need to focus on the crime. Get that dealt with.
Thank you, Mr. Christian. We will now move. Same question for Mr. Chase.
Okay. I've been spending a lot of time on the 11 initiatives from letsgowashington.com. Those are 11 initiatives. If we can get the signatures on, you have more power than I do as a legislator. If I get a bill passed, the governor will probably just veto it. But these 11 initiatives to the legislature, the governor cannot veto it. We have you force a vote on these things. Number one is restoring police pursuit. And, that's, I think almost everybody agrees that we need to do that. And they're all good. There's making hard drugs illegal. Again, the Blake decision, okay, it's instead of a felony, it's a misdemeanor, and you have someone who's selling a drug that's going to kill someone. It's a young person, but they're getting away with it. And then keeping guns from criminals, is another one. But these initiatives are all good. There's tax cuts in there. Emergency powers review, voter protection actually came off a bill that I wrote. But if we can get those passed, they go right to the floor. We bypass the governor, and then you contact your legislators like you should to get to the vote on the ones you want.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chase. We are now coming to our last question, and after the last question, you will each have 30 seconds to conclude. But the last question tonight, again, a softball. What haven't we asked tonight that is important to you, or what did you hear that you wanted to follow up on? We will begin with Mr. Chase.
Yeah, I think we talked about the verity of our votes. Are they truly being counted correctly? I think that's very important. That's what I hear mostly from other people. I also hear a lot on the damages from COVID. You know, what we got out of COVID, the collateral damage from COVID to businesses, to families, the number of suicides, kids not learning has been so disastrous that, you know, any good that it did paled in comparison. And, you know, the governor, it's till October, he's ending the COVID things now, but he's talking about keeping the mandates permanent for state workers. And do we live in America or do we live in Cuba? You know, where they're mandating all of these things for us. All power belongs to, for the state constitution, belongs to the people of the state. And yet we've got some who's acting as a dictator, you know, for 900 days, making decisions that we're all against. So that's one thing we really missed, I think.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chase. And I will turn that same question over to Mr. Christian.
Thank you for the time. For myself, I didn't waste my time when I was there in 2014 in your money on things that had no chance of making it through the legislature. Quite honestly, these initiatives, we have to have a majority in the House to get them signed. So it seems like we're wasting, my opponent's wasting a lot of his time gathering signatures on something that has zero chance of making it through. We need to look at the proper way to fix our pursuit problem. We have a pursuit law problem. That needs to be done with proper channels this session, not the hopes that we're going to be able to gather enough signatures and have a majority in the House to be able to get this, you know, these initiatives passed. And I also didn't waste my time on bills that would divide our state in half. I mean, the reality is, yeah, you look at it and says, oh yeah, Eastern Washington would be nice to have our own, you know, state and our own government possibly, but who's going to have to pay for all that rural farmland? Spokane is going to have to pay for all that whole eastern half of Washington state should this bill go through by some miracle.
Thank you very much. And that takes us to closing statements. You will each have up to 30 seconds for a closing statement. We will begin with Mr. Christian.
I mean, I thank the League of Women Voters for actually caring enough to put this event together. I'm Leonard Christian. My website is leonardchristian.com, where you can see where I stand on issues, where you can see on who's endorsed my campaign. We're looking forward to getting in there and working hard across the aisle with both parties to get these issues that we can agree on, such as the pursuit bill and the others, as far as drug bills that are going on at the moment. And those are the things that are important to the families right now. Crime, we need to get a handle on that. Inflation, the state's got to come along and help get a handle on that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Christian. And Mr. Chase.
Thank you, League of Women Voters, for your adherence to the First Amendment, giving us our chance to speak our minds in front of our constituents. My opponent brings up how much I accomplished. I wrote 15 bills. I did 2 that someone else asked me to introduce for them. And I co-signed, co-sponsored another over 130 bills. So it's a full-time job there. And you know, I don't understand how you can say I was wasting my time. I've met with anybody who wanted to meet with me. I listened to every side up on the Snake River Dam things, but I think I could be a good representative again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chase. This concludes our 2022 General Election Candidates Forum, and I want to thank our candidates for their participation. Please remember that you may register to vote online or in person until October 31st. Election day registration can be done at the Spokane County Elections Office or here at Center Place in Spokane Valley. If tonight's forum did not answer all of your questions, contact information for the candidates can be found in your voter's guide through the Elections Office or at vote411.org at the League of Women Voters website. On behalf of the League of Women Voters, we thank the candidates sincerely for their participation in this forum, both for the first position and the second position. We hope that tonight's forum will help you make an informed decision when you cast your ballot for the Tuesday, November 8th general election. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank Center Place and the City of Spokane Valley for the use of this lovely facility. For more information about the League of Women Voters, please visit lwvspokane.org. That's lwvspokane, all one word, .org. Thank you very much and good night.